Hi, this is Shadowfax here. This is an open letter to the Woolly Bumblebee. Woolly, enough is enough. I'm recording this after on numerous occasions watching your videos and reading comments you've made. I have two major concerns with the way you conduct yourself on YouTube. The first is hypocrisy, and the second relates to your credibility. So firstly, you've made videos and comments which say that we all within the men's rights movement should get along and not be divided, how we should keep politics out of the MRM, and how people like Bernard Chapin are wrong to tar all leftists with the same brush. In almost the same sentence, you then come out and aggressively attack anybody who identifies as libertarian, sometimes even in the actual comment threads of your Let's All Be Friends videos. Now, I suspect you don't even know what libertarianism is, even though you think you do. One thing I have noticed about you is your absolutist attitude. One is either with you or against you. If somebody disagrees with you, they are wrong and probably ideologues. Your most ridiculous comment, perhaps you've deleted it now, could be summed up as, good, the MRM doesn't need libertarianism, so you can fuck off out of it. Later, you describe libertarianism as a cancer within the MRM. Interesting that it is a cancer which has infected Paul Elam, John the Other, and Girl Writes What, three MRAs who are honestly in a different league to yourself. Now, I've absolutely no problem with somebody disliking libertarianism. I have no problem people misunderstanding it, particularly, and I don't particularly care if people criticise it with their inaccurate and misinformed nonsense in a place like YouTube. What I do have a problem with, Wooly, is with the hypocrisy. If you claim you're trying to keep the MRM apolitical and that you want unity and hate division, then you should damn well act like it. Secondly, your credibility. Now, so far as I know, you are the Canadian news editor for A Voice for Men. This doesn't mean you're not allowed to have personal views on your YouTube channel, and it doesn't mean you should have to bow and scrape to everything A Voice for Men says. However, when you act completely counter to the basic principles of what A Voice for Men stands for, then we have a problem. I'm talking specifically about two things here. First, as already mentioned, your various attacks on libertarianism, whilst almost in the same breath lecturing everybody on the dangers of division. Secondly, this video you've just put out on MGTOW, a video which did cause me to say, what the actual fuck, on more than one occasion. Now, I think your video can be split up into two halves. The first complains about misogyny amongst some MGTOWs, and I have no issue with you making this point, which is true. Now, while it's true that not all women are like that, we exist in a culture that encourages shitty behaviour from women, and over time, more and more women really are like that. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, as they say. I also need to ask, Wooly, when was the last time you made a romantic or sexual approach to a woman? Unless it was recently, then you really have zero evidence that the majority of women are not like that. You continue to lose the plot when you describe MGTOWs as sad, talk about the opportunities they are denying themselves, and allude to how they are unnatural in some way. Now, this is really interesting to me as, since I stopped chasing tail, I've paid off my overdraft, I've paid off all my credit cards, and I'm about to pay off my mortgage 10 full years early, and then I'm going to start to build a retirement fund. Does that sound sad? Does it sound like I am denying myself anything? Thanks for trivializing my experiences, though. I'm going to use the parachute metaphor a fair bit here. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the saying goes that getting married as a guy is like jumping out of an airplane with a dubious parachute. It's 50-50 if it will actually open or not, and 50-50 as to whether one will enjoy a gentle and dreamy ride down or become the unwitting star of their own personal crater impact. So, here's what you are doing. When you lecture MGTOWs on how they should form romantic, sexual relationships with women, you are doing so as a parachutist who knows her parachute is fine. You are shouting up to the plane we are all in, telling us to jump with our 50% reliable parachutes. When you misrepresent MGTOWs as being people who will never be in a relationship, ever, you are effectively telling us male parachutists to not bother waiting for the first batch of quality parachutes to arrive, to just jump anyway and do it now. By lecturing MGTOWs on their misogyny while acknowledging that they have been hurt, you are standing in the crater with their broken bodies lying in a pool of blood and prodding them with a shitty stick. Your comparison of MGTOWs with feminists is fundamentally flawed because they differ in two very important ways. Firstly, MGTOWs actually have genuine grievances, while the vast majority of feminists do not. Secondly, MGTOWs have no actual power over women and do not seek to gain it, which again is completely the opposite of feminists in relation to men. You seem to completely disregard the notion of MGTOW being a strike action, and that there is dignity and credibility in voting with your feet. For me, being a MGTOW is not only a precaution, but also something I'm damn proud of. So thanks for showing me your contempt for me. This is the second time you've done so, the first being your comments on libertarianism. You crossed the line with the unnatural comment, frankly. Quite aside from the fact that many people have no interest in having children, there are also other people who are perfectly mentally healthy, thanks ever so fucking much, but who simply do not want a relationship. And you know what? It's not only absolutely fine, but it is also none of your business. Now this is all leading up to the credibility issue, which is the second of the issues I wanted to address. The fact of the matter is that you are now an editor at A Voice for Men, and this gives you certain responsibilities which go along with the position. I also understand that your YouTube channel is your own, and you do not need to toe the A Voice for Men party line on your own channel. My problem is that two of your overwhelming issues are directly at odds with the Voice for Men guidelines, and that by continually talking about them on YouTube, you are damaging not only your own credibility, but the credibility of A Voice for Men. Here are three of the editorial policies of A Voice for Men. I have reproduced them here since I have serious doubts as to whether you've ever read them. Firstly, anti-marriage. This site supports the marriage strike and post-marriage culture. There will be no articles posted in favour of the institution or inferring to young men that it is a safe endeavour. Secondly, pro-male reproductive rights. A Voice for Men supports the concept of legal choice for men, which would allow men to unilaterally reject parental obligations during the same time a woman is allowed to obtain a legal abortion. Finally, apolitical. A Voice for Men rejects the current political paradigm, accepting that it is misandric on all fronts. A Voice for Men will not endorse any political candidate of any party, although articles may address misandry or the lack of it in certain political figures or activities. On this site, Republicans, Democrats, Labour, Conservative and Liberal parties are all viewed as equally worthless and their partisan followers as equally brainwashed. Now you have already demonstrated your political bias in ways that are unhelpful. Now you're trying to hustle people you don't even know into relationships and potentially parenthood, which could be the end of them. I do appreciate you're not talking about marriage and kids specifically, but about relationships. However, for the vast majority of people, marriage and kids is the natural progression of a relationship. In the UK, if I even cohabit with a woman for a certain period of time, it is automatically considered a common law marriage, and I owe her support and possibly my house should the relationship fail. I'm going to end with the following. Wooly, you've done a fantastic work setting up the Earl Silverman Fund and campaigning for a male DV shelter in Canada. Well done for that, it is appreciated. As we all know, Earl Silverman tragically committed suicide. The rate for suicide amongst people in relationship breakup is higher than amongst the general population. 70% of those who commit suicide amongst individuals who commit suicide during marriage breakups are men. My concern is that you are going to be responsible for more Earl Silvermans here. And how will you feel if somebody that you have lectured has another hideous breakup and decides to end it all? Not only will it be a tragedy, it will be one that you have arguably caused. You would have to live with that, which does at least introduce an element of personal risk into the decisions you are making. It's not really comparable to jumping with a 50-50 parachute, but we have to start somewhere. Wooly, when you put your mind to the matter at hand, you were a pretty good MRA. But please, enough of the politics, enough of the hypocrisy, and enough of the trying to shame people. Thank you.